Excited to have my next guest join us. He's a very talented artist, just dropped a new EP called Gonzo. It is Boslen.
It's
Dude,
good.
thanks
Thank you
for
for having me.
thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it, and I love the aesthetics. Clean, white background, and
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, just keeping it simple today.
where are you checking in
I wish
from?
I had a guitar and a brick wall, man. That looks crazy.
Yeah, man. 3 months into the pandemic, I had to spruce up the studio, which is also my second bedroom.
Yeah, no, it looks great. It looks great.
You're in Canada right now?
I am, yeah, just in Chilliwack, BC, just outside Vancouver. So just relaxing right now.
Nice. I tried to look up some of the interesting things in Chilliwack, and I didn't really find much. I've never been to BC, let alone Vancouver.
Yeah,
Well, I take it back. I've been to Vancouver, but it's like literally just a pit stop. But describe Chilliwack in a few sentences or a few words.
Chilliwack. Well, I've been here since I was probably 10 years old. It's definitely my hometown, man. It's an older town, you know. It's a lot of farmland, a lot of like suburbs and just like open space. It's very relaxing with open roads and just a small community that is very genuine.
Sounds like a typical suburban town, I guess.
Yeah,
You can't even call it a city.
no. It's definitely not a city, but I look at it as a home. You know, it's very humbling to be here and
Yeah,
walk around some parts and walk around like my old high school and just, ground myself again. I think with
yeah.
all this stuff that's going on, it's always good to just not get too high or not get too low.
Yeah, there's quite a juxtaposition with the music you make and sounds in particular versus that type of backdrop. One would think that, yeah, you could be into hip hop and all those things, but at the same time, you're just a kid who just rides a skateboard and maybe
Mhm.
also be exposed to like Linkin Park and Corn and Papa Roach.
Well, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. It's just telling my truth. Like I would never, go on the mic, especially on Gonzo, especially the music I'm trying to make now. That's like trying to be timeless. I'm just trying to tell my truth. I never came from like a huge gangster area. I never came from like gun violence or anything like that. But I think that type of reality, going into music, doesn't take away the reality I had, or maybe the reality you had. You know, I did come from like not the prettiest of neighborhood. You know, it was struggling times. I did see some dark days, but explaining it in a way where it's truthful and you feel something, I think that's the biggest thing, because there's so many realities that we all come from. It doesn't always have to be gun violence and gangsters and selling stuff to be inside hip hop. I think it's just your truth.
Yeah, and you did have quite a bit of not turmoil, but you've had challenges growing up with your
Yeah,
parents not being together. You never really knew your dad being Jamaican, and then also your mom
yeah,
being indigenous, right? So you had
yeah.
also this discovery of identity as well. What's the nature of the demographics in Chilliwack, and when did racism come into your mind?
That's one thing that I tried to balance in my life. It's just I didn't even know what it was growing up. You know, growing up as a kid, I didn't know that I was any different or why I should be looked upon as different, because I was only maybe like one of two black kids in my elementary school, one of four black kids maybe in my high school. And every other kid, it's like growing up, I think kids just say things that they don't really mean. You know, I don't really hold any animosity. It might be like something passed down from their parents, perhaps. But growing up, yeah, there was quite a bit of racism. Yeah, like just getting called certain names, just getting picked on just because I'm a different skin color. But ultimately, it just made me reflect and maybe ask questions why. As a kid, normally would never ask those questions because he's just so enjoying a bike or he's enjoying a scooter or just playing with his friends. I'm asking, okay, why? Why are people looking at me this way? Why are they calling me this thing? Is it a reflection of them? Is it a reflection of myself? Like it gets your brain working, and ultimately that reflected in my pen. And I started, writing these things down and talking about these things and talking to my mother about these things. Having these conversations early as a child, it matures you very fast.
There's something to be said about being a naive kid growing up and being shielded as well as not ignorant, but kind of just unaware of that type of reality.
Mm,
Because once you become an adult, reality hits you hard. When you were a kid, did you envision a career in music, or were you going to be the next Naja Houston?
um, that's such a good question. You know, Nigel Houston, it's funny. I met him in LA like probably 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and it was a full circle moment. And he was one of the biggest, like him, Paul Rodriguez, like Eric Custon, like these Tony Hawk, like these skateboarders that I used to look up as a kid. It was just a way for me to express myself and to find my own identity. I think all of us as kids, when we grow up, we all want to grow up so fast. We all want to just like be who we want to be, if that makes any sense. And I feel like when you attach something to like swimming, karate, or skateboarding, at the time as a kid, you're like, okay, this is how I can separate myself and fill into my own shoes compared to anybody else around me, especially like my siblings. Like I'm a very competitive person. I was very competitive as a kid. So I always wanted to I was the youngest in my family. I always wanted to do my own thing and just like prove my parents I can, be a human at such a young age, like 11 or 10 years old. Music didn't fall into my lap until I was probably, 12 or 13. And that just so happened to be me finding like an XXL magazine at like Shoppers Drug Mart. And I was just, who are these like, people on this magazine that just fashionably look forward, or they dress cool, they talk cool, their posture's cool, they just look like cool people as a kid. And I just wanted to embody that because I felt like kind of out of place in a sense where I grew up. I felt very like I was searching for something that wasn't really there. Skateboarding filled that void for a very long time, but then I had to stop doing that because I just really wanted to start pursuing. It was rugby, and then it went into music.
Skateboarding has its own community, right? And
Yeah,
just like Paul Rodriguez is friends with Ryan Sheckler, who's friends with Naja Houston. And
mm-hmm.
I feel like as kids, again,
Yeah,
going back to that idealistic vision view of the world, to be all like, hey, you skate? Oh, dude, cool trick.
100%, 100%. Yeah, the skate park was like a home for me as a kid. I learned like good and bad things from there that I still carry to this day. Um, yeah, even my lingo, some of like everything. It's such a comfortable environment, and it was so friendly growing up because everybody's just trying to grow together and we're just having fun. I remember I used to look forward to that every day after school, to just go to the skate park all day, come home bruised up and do it all over again. And that, I think, realizing it now, it teaches you so much as a kid because it teaches you to just never give up on something. Like learning a trick, you could spend, like 10 hours trying to do a kickflip on flat ground. That's it. Just a kickflip and just landing it and not even rolling, just perfectly stationary. And if you land it, you are good for the rest of the week. But that sense of satisfaction, like you strive hours and hours relentlessly falling, getting back up, falling and getting back up. It taught me so many things as a kid, and I'm so grateful that I stayed with it for so long. I think it's cool, the similarities, skateboarding and music, they're always going to tie into it. So
the connection to this new EP and why you call it Gonzo, because I'm sure
yeah,
that you've had a lot of people in your life that have told you, man, you're crazy for doing this. Go get a degree in
exactly.
college and be a doctor.
Exactly, man. Exactly. That's literally what it is. like that's the biggest message I'm trying to just convey. Like, how crazy are these ideas? How delusional are these ideas? I really tapped into that saying that you just said by watching probably, I had to watch over like 30 Kanye documentaries. I had to watch over, study a bunch of articles on Salvador Dali and Jay-Z and stuff, but it's not because it feels like chores by any means. It's just I enjoy it. And like I found that common theme of like even Jay-Z when he grew up in the projects, and like there's somebody living right here, somebody living right here, somebody living right here, somebody living right here, and you're just boxed in this cubicle, and you're just having to, there's like drug dealers outside, but like he wants to be like an entrepreneur. Like it's delusional. It's completely delusional. But if you trick your mind, man, at a young age, circle back to being a kid again. If you circle your mind and you be like, I want to be a superhero, I'm going to be a superhero, no one can really stop you ever. So that's what I'm just trying to tap in my own way, just being a 23-year-old now, just seeing through life through this perspective. I'm sure it's going to change in a couple of years, and I'm just going to grow, and that's just naturally how it is. But right now, I'm still just trying to be a superhero, like I said, as a kid.
especially now with whatever 2.5 years of self-reflection and also motivation. How did the last 2 years affect you with regards to your perspective?
It gave me a lot of time. It gave me a lot of time to just sit and really view what I want to do with my life. I feel like there's times in our lives where you're in limbo. It feels like you're in a loading screen and you want to get something so fast. You're so antsy and you work every day towards it. But when everything's on pause, you have a decision to make. It's either, do I, you know, fall into a routine again where I wake up, I do what I have to do, and I fall back asleep? Or do I change the chapters and I start to prepare for the future? And that's what I really try to do. And I started picking up books again. I started trying to paint. I try to keep my mind occupied and stay in a positive mentality because I knew that it was going to be a long one. At the time, it was my first time actually living by myself. And I was living, it was Hastings in Vancouver. It was 679 East Cordova. I remember the apartment like it was yesterday. And that's all I could afford at the time. But it was probably one of the worst areas to live in Vancouver, where there's, prostitutes right outside the door. There's rats inside my walls. There's like feces in my pantry. There's, domestic violence across the hall. I can hear the walls banging. Like, I had to call the cops multiple times. Like, there's somebody in the elevator, like shooting, like drugs. Like, it really, man, like during COVID where you were stuck there too, like that's my world. Like, bro, it made me so grateful in a way, which is crazy because being at my lowest lows, it makes you grateful for the highest highs and it makes you want to reach that ladder again. And truthfully, I just took that time to just write music. And the studio was right there. Everything was closed, even the corner store. I couldn't even get bread, but I could walk to the studio and just escape from the world for at least 5 hours, come back home and just try to like stay above water, go to the studio. And that was my sense of like happiness.
What was the motivation and catalyst, the impetus to reflect on your autobiographical point of view?
I think perhaps it's because at the time, I wasn't necessarily thinking logically. I was thinking more emotionally, if that plays into any factor. Like, I felt like I had a responsibility at a time to say things that a lot of people felt around me, at least, or I've seen growing up, that nobody wanted to say. And that in itself, I like on Dust to Dawn, the project before, I was very introspective. I was very much talking about not having closure or being like, hurt from another individual and feeling alone. This project, I do tap into those same, themes, but now it's more, I feel like it's broader. It's bigger and it's more, because I think it's just life experience. Sorry, I keep having these like thoughts. The more life experience I live, the more I'm exposed to. Like being like 23 now, I'm just like, I've seen more. And then when you go, like when you travel, I'm sure and you bring it back to where like your friends and your community, you're like look what I've seen. Look at all these journeys. You're not trying to brag, but you're more just trying to just show them like the experiences, share the stories, and grow from it with each other because you want everybody to know your community. And with songs like Scars, for instance, that's the one that just pops into my head. That one, I try to just my best just talk and speak to the listener, not rap, not be like, okay, is this rhyming? Because I felt like a lot of the time, because I'm still trying to learn like this music, man. I'm still trying to learn my pen. I'm always going to be like a student to it. But when it came to that song, it came so naturally because I was just talking. And I was speaking from the truth.
Well, hey, I'm looking forward to the new music. Congrats on this EP release and appreciate the time.
Appreciate you so much. Thank you, man.